Okay, guys. Listeners. Whatever creepy site that this makes its way onto. I put it here because I thought it'd get the most people to whom it was relevant. If you're one of those people who are inherently drawn to horror, you're in real danger. I don't know what it is exactly. I don't pretend to know everything that's going on, and in fact, myself, I used to be drawn to the more realistic, non-supernatural creepypastas. Let me explain. About a year ago, I was up at 3 in the morning. You know, that part of the night when you're so deep into it, it feels like it will never end. Well, anyway, I was up, clicking around, looking for a good creepypasta that hadn't been read before, really getting myself, freaked out. You know the feeling, I'm sure. You like the feeling. That's the problem. Anyway, I'm reading, and I hear a pattering sound coming from the kitchen. I had a cat, so I just assumed that it was her, but then I glanced on my bed, and my cat is there. Now, I've been freaking myself out for a while here, so I'm nearly trembling with fear as I open my bedroom door. I live alone, in a single-bedroom apartment, with just a bedroom, a kitchen, a living room, and my bathroom. My bedroom door opens up to the kitchen. It was pitch black. The moonlight gleaming off the linoleum. I strained my ears and listened. Heard nothing. I admonished myself for being such a fucking pussy. It was just random house noises, right? Maybe a fucking mouse in the walls. I was about to turn around and head back into my room when I heard it again. I saw something scattered across the linoleum in the kitchen, heading for the bathroom. It was small, but it definitely was not a rat. The limbs were way too long, the torso was too high off the ground, and the way it moved quickly, but so awkwardly. In any other circumstance, I might have laughed at it. As it was, I was scared shitless. So, I basically freeze for like 10 minutes. It was the size of the thing that convinced me to move. No matter how weird or fucked up it was so much smaller than me. It couldn't have been that dangerous, right? So I grab the broom I have leaning against the wall of the kitchen, flip on the lights, and head back towards the bathroom. I find that with the lights on, I'm barely scared at all, more intrigued. I mean, what the fuck could that thing have been? So I open the bathroom door. Before I turn on the light, I do a quick scan. Nothing. I flick the switch. I look around. Still nothing. I look on the ceiling even. I throw the shower curtain open. Nothing still. What could it have been? My mind started inventing explanations. It definitely had 4 limbs. Maybe it was a big-ass spider who had lost 4 of its legs somehow. That could explain the awkward movement. It was good enough for me. I was about to go back to bed when I thought, on a whim, to use my broom to poke behind the toilet, between the wall and the base of the seat. When I did, I hit something solid, and it scurried out. It looked like a tiny human. It was pale white, pale as a maggot, with dirty gray streaks running along its skin. It moved on all 4s with long, thin fingers that grasped the ground. Its skull was completely bald, and it had no eyes. The skin looked like it had been torn away from the lower half of its face, leaving the exposed teeth and gums. It looked up at me, pointed its face in my general direction, anyway, and then scurried, quickly as fuck, up the side of the bath and down into the drain. It moved in quick bursts like a spider and climbed straight up smooth surfaces like one too. After it disappeared down the drain, I just stood there, frozen, broom handle still in my hand for a good 5 minutes. I was scared shitless. Slowly backed out of the bathroom and closed the door, and then stuffed a blanket in the crack between the floor and the door, fearing that it might come out. Then I sat in my bed and I wondered what I could do. I mean, it wasn't like I could call the police or even tell any of my friends. It's not like they'd believe me. So what did I do? I made a thread on X. I mean, this was quite a while ago, almost a year. You might not even remember it. It wasn't anything special. It didn't even get that many responses before falling off the boards. I guess people thought that I was just joking. Which really, I would have thought the same thing. My thread, in retrospect, sounds exactly like the type of threads that I hate. But besides, from all the OP is a fag and sage responses, there was one other one. I've seen them too, man. Email me. Along with an email address, one that I'm not going to give out here. So I email this kid, right? And right away he responds and we start up a conversation in IRC. He introduces himself as John and basically tells me a very similar story one night a few months ago. Reading creepypasta, heard a noise, got up, saw the same small pale man. It was a bit bigger, he said, the size of a cat. But he also told me one other thing. That I'd be seeing more of them. He said that ever since he saw the first one, he's been seeing more and more of them everywhere, even in the street, during the day. They were everywhere, he said. Then once you've noticed the first one, it got a lot easier to see all the other ones. He had no idea what they were, and he hadn't figured out their behavior yet. He said that usually when he saw them or heard them in his own home, he was reading creepypasta. So they usually freak him out or something awful, but he said again, he never actually seen them do anything terrible, just scurry out of sight. But he said some got pretty big. Not all of them looked the same. I still didn't sleep that night. But over the next week, and those that followed, I found that I did get used to them. I did see more of them. I did glimpses of them out the corner of my eye, or see the retreating rear end of one crawling into a gutter pipe, or see their tiny faces staring out at the street from the sewers. Some, it seemed, weren't even trying to hide. I live in Providence, Rhode Island, which is a small city. And on my way to work one day, I take the bus, I was looking out the window and saw a pretty large one, as large as a medium-sized dog, trotting along the sidewalk. People were just walking by it. Actually, I think that a lot of people saw it as a dog. One man stopped to scratch it on its head. I'd always email John and tell him about all the appearances I saw. I even tried to catch some on camera, but they always heard the mechanical whirring and darted away before my camera could take a picture. I told myself I'd have to take a picture of one of the bigger ones, the slower ones. But either way, as the weeks wore on, I became more and more used to them. Sure, they were creepy as shit, and I could never sit down on the toilet and enjoy a long crap anymore because I was paranoid as fuck that they'd crawl up into the bowl and bite me in the ass. They weren't really doing anything harmful. They unnerved the fuck out of me. But so did big spiders. I could live with them. And John called them Gristers, because he said that they reminded him of the Grister meme on X for some reason. I'm pretty sure he meant the grifter meme. The name Grister stuck. I continued my exchanges with John, but I noticed that he was becoming more and more tense. It was hard to tell over text, but really that was the only way to put it. I just figured that once the novelty of a shared experience had worn off, We really didn't have much to talk about. John really wasn't my type. He was a steroid-pumping bodybuilder in southern Florida who lived with his mother. But we started discussing Grister behavior. He said that his were starting to act a bit more differently than the ones that I saw. He'd wake up at night and they'd be perched at the end of his bed, staring at him, with their eyeless faces. They wouldn't scurry away anymore. He said he woke up one time because one of them actually started touching his face. That seemed unnerving. The whole time I had been putting out inquiries on the internet to see if anyone else had experienced the phenomenon. I couldn't be the only one, but no one came forward. On X, most of the threads about the subject got saged, so eventually I stopped asking. But I have an inquisitive mind. I wanted to know what these things did, what exactly that they were. I even wanted to capture one. I left out food and mousetraps, but none of the things ever went for it. My cat would notice them, though. She'd hiss at them, and even chased them a couple of times. All those times when I had seen her do that and assumed that she was being a dumbass cat, chasing at nothing. One night, I was walking home from work alone. I work at a call center for the police charity. And my house is about 6 miles away. I'd have to stay late, so there was no bus to come pick me up, and I didn't really have all that many friends, so I had to walk. Anyway, I was walking past some old abandoned brick house. Creepy shit, let me tell you, when I heard some weird, low groan. That's when I happened to notice that there was a lot more Gristers than usual here. They were mostly ignoring me, but they were scurrying in and around one particular brick house. The groaning sound seemed to be coming from the alley beside it. Now, a lot of Gristers were creepy enough, even without the low groaning sound. What made me decide to investigate? I don't know. Morbid curiosity. I'm always looking for some creepy gore stuff to post on the boards. I thought maybe that groaning was some kind of wounded animal. So I approached the side of the house, noting that the windows were boarded up, and the groaning. I should have known then that it was no animal. It was low, creaking, gurgling sound. It didn't sound like any fucking animal that I knew. So I snuck down the alley. And when I saw what was making the noise, I nearly pissed myself. It was a fat, humongous Grister, at least 8 feet wide, completely unable to move, with the rolls of fat hanging down over its legs. It had no neck, just 14 chins leading up to its macabre, exposed jaw. Dirty drool ran down its chin to cover its obscenely huge belly. Smaller Gristers crawled in and out of the rolls of its fat. It rubbed itself with a pudgy claw, making that groaning and gurgling sound, which seemed almost sexual. It was terrible. I know it doesn't sound like it, and objectively I can think that a fat, cooing Grister rubbing itself might sound pretty funny, actually, but in the presence of the thing, all I felt was a sick revulsion and disgust, but I kept in mind one thing, that I had been looking for a picture of these things. So I busted out my camera phone and snapped a picture. I wish I hadn't. If I hadn't, I think maybe I could have lasted a little longer. The minute I snapped that picture, the thing stopped groaning and swiveled its head towards me. All the Gristers did, in fact. They all started hissing and screaming at me, a horrible fucking sound like rusty nails on a chalkboard. I was thoroughly freaked out. To put things mildly, I lost my shit. I ran out of there as fast as I could, ran all the way home. Gristers didn't seem so harmless to me now. That noise that they made was straight out of hell. I didn't feel safe with the lights off anymore. I flipped all the lights on, scaring the shit out of my napping cat. I slammed the bathroom door shut, stuffed a blanket around the cracks again. Then I sat down on my bed and looked at the picture I had taken. There it was. Clear as day. The huge Grister. Just looking at it made me sick.